When people in Michigan are about to go on vacation, they usually say, "We're headed up north," which means something completely different to each family and remains a total mystery to anybody from outside of the state. So that's where we're headed. The mystery definition of up north, and hopefully some great fall color along the way. Stick with us. So let's start our journey in Michigan's capital before sunrise while everything is still quiet. But we'll head out on the east coast of Michigan or Lake Huron to catch a sunrise. And if we're lucky, maybe an early morning freighter on the horizon. Heading over to the west coast, we find Lake Michigan, where some of the early morning boaters are already out enjoying the weather and the winds. Well, let's head back to 127, right in the middle of the state, and about 45 minutes north of Lansing, we're going to find one of two different cider mills on the east and west side of the road. It's a great stop for some cider and donuts for your trip, and make a mental note, maybe pick up some pumpkins on the way back home. You may have also heard that Michigan has changed their official state flower to the beautiful orange and white striped construction barrel. And yes, folks, those flowers still bloom in the fall. Our next official stop will be to Clare, Michigan. It's a great stopping point for some gas and some food, right in the middle of the state, and a crossroads of three major Michigan highways. The colors are in full bloom. If you're there at dinner time, the Hotel Doherty's got a great restaurant on the main floor. Check that out. And if it's in the morning and you're just trying to get a donut the size of your head, then go to Cops and Donuts right across the street. Right up the street, you'll find Jay's Sporting Goods for hunting, fishing, and camping supplies, and some cool stuff for the kids to look at while you're there. From there, we'll head up to Gaylord, and if you're from Michigan, it's pronounced Gaylord, and it's a great camping and fishing destination as well. But one of my favorite golf resorts, Treetops, where they've got 5 fantastic courses for you to pick from. But let's head back to City Center in this cool little Bavarian-themed town. You're going to find plenty of specialty shops to visit, a few places to grab a beverage, and a variety of restaurants too, including the Sugar Bowl, which has been downtown for years. But further north, we know we're close to our final destination when we hit the Mackinac Bridge. It's a great 5-mile drive with tremendous views to the left and right, Mackinac Island to the right. It's the longest suspension bridge in the Western Hemisphere and a pretty cool little trip. In fact, it brings back some great memories from when my kids were still, kids, and actually thought traveling with their parents was still fun. But for us, base camp is going to be Sault Ste. Marie, and it's the destination for the Soo Locks, one of the most traveled commercial waterways in the world. It connects Lake Superior to Lake Huron, in fact, all the Great Lakes, all the way out to the east in the St. Lawrence Seaway. It's pretty cool to watch boats coming from Lake Huron have to rise 21 feet to get to the level of Lake Superior, but that's what the locks are for. Check it out. The next day we took a trip through Hiawatha National Forest, and we found a number of small drives all throughout the forest where the colors are really starting to pop. I think maybe we'll skip the narrative and just let you watch and enjoy. We continued our trip out to Munising, Michigan, which is at the foot of the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. But even along the roadside, you're going to find little gems like this waterfall in the middle of nowhere. All along the National Lakeshore, you're going to find some tremendous views of Lake Superior, including the harbors and bays that dot the coastline, and occasionally an opportunity to get up close and personal to the beach. But if you're there to see the rock formations, Miner's Castle is one of the most famous, and you can actually check this out from two different vantage points, this one being a little bit more up close and personal. But really the best way to see all of the pictured rocks is via a chartered cruise. And then we'll make our way over to Miner's Falls, and in the late part of the year it's got all the force and effect of a golden retriever's drool, but the surrounding colors are prettier. The fall is really active during the spring thaw and during heavy rains, but it's a great stop. The next day we took a tour of the Whitefish Bay Scenic Byway and our first stop at the Point Iroquois Lighthouse Station. Now in the early morning hours it was still overcast and rainy, but it was still a great view of this lighthouse. It's also got a great little path that leads down to Lake Superior. And you'll get some unobstructed views of the vastness that is this lake. And this beach is also a rock hunter's paradise, where it's just filled with stones that are granite or quartz or a combination of both. Following all the way around the bay, we get up to the Whitefish Point Lighthouse, but the road leading to the lighthouse was again quite colorful. The clouds had cleared, the sun had popped out a bit, and it gives you another great view of the colors of the Upper Peninsula. Finally arriving at Whitefish Point, this is another fantastic lighthouse and one of the largest all-steel structured light towers I've ever seen. It's quite beautiful in its construction. In here we'll also find the memorial to the Edmund Fitzgerald, where so many people lost their lives as the freighter tried to make it into the safety of Whitefish Bay. As we headed south, we find the Quaminon Falls State Park. And here at the lower falls, the colors had really started to pop, and you get some great views of the falls from this spot. Some other great examples of nature and moss, and the soft carpeted pine straw of the forest floor. But we also finally got confirmation of where up north is. Apparently it's in this gift shop at Quaminon Falls. Now we tried to get to the upper falls this year, there was no way we could actually pull in, so we were kind of bummed. So we took a detour to another lighthouse that we found on the map called Crisp Point. And what we didn't know is that we had to suffer through 18 miles of dirt road, where apparently people in the wintertime were even stranded because this place is so remote. And to give you some idea of how difficult it was to get to this lighthouse, enjoy this ride. Much of this dirt road was washed out, we were told apparently, to 12 hours of continuous rain. And if you had a two-wheel drive car, no way are you making it to the lighthouse. Though I have to tell you, privately, although it drove my wife crazy, this drive was fun. And the views of this tiny little lighthouse are fantastic. So it took more than 45 minutes to travel that 18 miles. But it's a cool little lighthouse on this point in the Upper Peninsula. Something interesting about this and a lot of the other lighthouses in Michigan is that they survive and they are maintained through volunteer activity and through donations. They're not actually funded by the state or the federal government anymore. And here's another great beach for rock hunting. Again, mostly granite and quartz. And some other cool things to look at as you're walking around the park. And now, it was time for us to cut our vacation a little bit short and head back home. We headed back to Sault Ste. Marie, and then back over the bridge, where the weather forecast told us we were going to get pounded with 4 additional days of heavy rain. But before we headed all the way back south, we took a detour down M72, headed east towards Lake Huron. And the first stop was the Forest Dunes Golf Resort. I'd never heard of this place, but it's really expansive and it's quite beautiful. Even the forest floor was pretty, as the frost was out that morning. Another stop along the way is this Smith Bridge. It's a 1-lane wooden bridge, and it's a very popular spot for kayakers and canoers. It's also got horse trails that run through the park. And just like it's Gaylord, don't call it Gaylord, this is Mayo, don't call it Mio, Michigan. And at the edge of the Au Sable River, it's dammed up to create hydroelectric power for the region. And as we continue further east, we finally hit Oscoda and the edge of Lake Huron. And where, despite all of our travels in the UP where we didn't see a single stitch of wildlife, we caught this guy just on the edge of the Huron shoreline. And now we'll continue south along the shoreline, around Saginaw, and over to one of our favorite destinations, Frankenmuth, Michigan. And of course, if you're in Frankenmuth, you have to go to Bronner's. Even though it's not Christmas time, it's a great destination. And I mean, if you want to get inspired by things that you can do for the next holiday, this place is the place to be. Santa! And if you're hungry, you're either going to hit the Bavarian Inn or Zender's for some fried chicken. And even on this rainy day, it was a great stop. Now, though the vacation was complete, I took another drive out to Port Huron because there was another lighthouse, despite living close by, I had never seen. So the Fort Gratiot Lighthouse is pretty cool as well. Very well maintained and a great view of the shoreline. Also in Port Huron, you'll find the Blue Water Bridge, which is at the very bottom of Lake Huron and via the St. Clair River, feeding Lake Erie and Ontario. It's also, if you can see across the shore, where folks like Ryan Reynolds, Jim Carrey, and Evangeline Lilly are from, because I can see Canada from my house. Well, in the end, we had a great little trip up north. And of course, up north means different things to different people. But at our variety of destinations, we had a great time and got some great video. And at the end of a long day, you might even catch a great shot of a full moon.